If you want to achieve the highest FPS at 1440p resolution, this video is going to be for you. I'm going to show you 3 gaming PC builds for 1440p resolution, going from the cheapest one to the most expensive, and all of them being excellent for 1440p. So if you want to play at this resolution, you will have 3 different budgets to choose from, and I will also explain to you what each of these PCs are capable of running and the estimated FPS average. That way everyone is able to understand. So if you're a beginner, this video is going to be for you as well. The link to all of these PC builds will be down below in the video description. With that being said, let's start. With the first system, we have the cheapest one on the list if you want to do 1440p on ultra settings with the highest FPS. So for the CPU, we have the i5-12400F, which is a really good CPU, going for $150. This is a 6-core processor that is going to be amazing for this build. Then for the CPU cooler, we have a cheap ID Cooling 214XT. This one is going to be more than enough for our i5-12400F. And then for the motherboard, we have the ASRock B660M Pro RS, which has all the features for $95. Then for the memory kit, we have 16 gigs of DDR4 memory, which is going to be enough for gaming, but if you want a better streaming and multitasking performance, then you might consider going with 32 gigs of RAM because it's not that much more expensive. Then for the storage, we have a 1TB Gen 4 SSD for just $35, and for the graphics card, and the most important component in terms of gaming performance for most titles, we have 2 options. You can either go with the used market in the RTX 3080 10GB version, which is going for around $400, and it's going to give you really similar performance to the newest RX 7800 XT. And for you to see the estimated performance on a 15 game average at 1440p, the 3080 was able to average the same as the 7800 XT in 108 FPS on average. And remember that we are talking about games on high to ultra settings, so if you want to play easy to run titles, you will be able to run this type of shooters at above 200 FPS depending on the settings. So if you want a 1440p high refresh rate monitor and achieve the highest FPS, this PC is definitely enough. Also on that same test at 1080p, the 3080 got an average of 146 FPS, and at 4K an average of 64 FPS. The other option is going with a brand new GPU that's around the same price in the RX 6800 non-XT, which has 16 gigs of VRAM, so it's going to be better on the latest AAA titles at 4K in terms of visual quality if you play on ultra settings, but in terms of performance, it's going to be around 10 to 15% slower than the RTX 3080, but it is brand new, so you decide here if you want to go for the used GPU that's going to perform better, or the brand new GPU that's slightly worse but has more VRAM. Then for the case, we have the Bitfinex Nova Mesh Micro ATX Mini Tower case. I think this one looks absolutely beautiful from mesh panel and 3 pre-installed fans for just $60 USD. And then for the power supply, we have an 850 watt 80 plus volt power supply, 8-tier rated by the way, really good quality, which is going to be necessary for the RTX 3080 system. But if you go for the PC with the RX 6800, the case is going to be different because you need a bigger one. So I picked the DIY PC ARGB Q01. This one looks fantastic as well. In my opinion, it actually looks better than the other one, and the airflow is great. And then for the power supply, it's a different one as well because you don't need 850 watts. So I went with a 750 watt 80 plus volt power supply B-tier rated unit, which means really good quality as well. And the total price for the system is going to be $880 when I'm recording this video for the PC with the RX 6800, and $895 for the PC with the RTX 3080. So in terms of price, they are really similar. Then if you want a better quality system, we have the $1,200 PC with the Ryzen 5 7600, which is a much better and faster CPU than the i5-12400, and it's also better for future proofing. So down the line, if you want to upgrade the CPU, you do not have to upgrade the whole motherboard if it's from AMD and the same platform. Then we have the same CPU cooler, it's going to be enough as well. For the motherboard, we have the ASRock B650M Pro RS with Wi-Fi included as well. Then for the memory kit, we have 32 gigs of RAM, so this is an upgrade from before, and this is DDR5 memory, not DDR4, with CL36 timings, so really fast for gaming. Then for the storage, we have the same 1TB Gen 4 SSD drive, and for the graphics card, we have the newest RX 7800 XT that I mentioned before. It performs about the same as the RTX 3080, so so I do not have to show you the benchmarks again. It's a newer architecture. You get 16 gigs of VRAM instead of 10, which is going to make a difference at 4K resolution and also 1440p on the latest AAA titles. You also get AV1 encoding, which means that your streams are going to look much better. And not only that, but it's also more power efficient, so you don't need a really big power supply. Then for the case, we have the Fractal Design Pop Mini Air. This one is better quality than the others mentioned in this video, and it's going for 90 bucks. And last but not least, the power supply, we have the Enermax Revolution DF 850 watt 80 plus gold power supply. As I said before, you actually don't need a big power supply. The only reason I went with this one is because it's A-tier rated, meaning that it's the best quality out there, and also A-tier rated power supplies that had 700 to 750 watts instead of 850 watts were about $10 less. So I would highly recommend you going with the bigger power supply if the price difference is very little. And then the other option is the RTX 4070 instead of the RX 7800 XT for the GPU, which is going to be a bit more expensive, but if you want Nvidia instead of AMD, then this one is the one to go with. My personal preference is the AMD RX 7800 XT because in terms of price to performance, it's going to be better. However, if you value ray tracing, DLSS 3, and also some applications run better on Nvidia, then the RTX 4070 might be your best option. I highly recommend you checking your favorite video game or your favorite programs for content creation or whatever it is that you do and seeing which one works better for your specific needs. The total price for the PC with the RX 7800 XT is $1,185 and the total price for the RTX 4070 system is $1,205 USD. So $20 of difference. Once again, the price difference is not big, so decide on whether you want Nvidia or AMD. And then if you just want the best of the best at 1440p resolution, I recommend you buying this PC, the $1,600 system with the AMD Ryzen 7 7700X, which is going to make a huge difference for CPU demanding titles, mostly multiplayer titles, but also games like Flight Simulator. And then it's also going to be better for content creation. It has 8 cores instead of 6. Then for the CPU core, we have the Thermalright Peerless Assassin 120. It's going to be enough for our Ryzen 7 and it's only going for 35 bucks. Then for the motherboard, we have a higher quality one in the MSI Pro X670P with Wi-Fi included, and it has great quality audio as well. Then for the memory kit, we have the same 32 gigs of RAM as before. For the storage, we have 2 TB of Gen 4 SSD instead of 1 TB in case you want to download a bunch of titles or you require really heavy files. Then for the graphics card, we have 2 options, the RX 7900 XT with 20 gigs of VRAM going for $720, or you can get the RTX 4070 Ti with 12 gigs of VRAM for $770. I currently have the RTX 4070 Ti on my system, so you will have a video on the RTX 4070 Ti benchmarks at 1440p in the top right of the screen for you to see the estimated performance. But basically on that same 15 game average at 1440p I've mentioned before, the RX 7900 XT was able to average 140 FPS, while the RTX 4070 Ti was able to average around 130. So in terms of performance, the 7900 XT is slightly better. And then at 4K, the 7900 XT was able to average 82 FPS, and it is much better not only because of the performance difference, but also because of the VRAM difference. And the RTX 4070 Ti was able to average 72 FPS. Then you also get a nice looking case in the Fantex Eclipse G300A with 3 pre-installed fans. I also added 1 extra case fan for the exhaust one, and you will have the link in the description as well. And then for the power supply, we have the same Enermax 850 watt 80 plus gold power supply because it's AT rated and the price makes sense. The total price when I'm recording this video for the PC with the RX 7900 XT is $1,630, and the one with the RTX 4070 Ti is $1,680. So the price difference here is a bit larger than before, 50 bucks of difference, but once again it really comes down to your favorite titles and your favorite programs. Now if you have less than $800 or more than $1,600 because maybe you want to play at 4K, or maybe you don't care about playing at 1440p on ultra settings and the highest FPS, or perhaps you just want to play at 1080p, then you will have my video on the best PC builds of the month in the top right of the screen for every budget and every resolution. Thank you guys for watching, thank you for the support, and I will see you on the next one.